Hello, everyone, and we are live, episode 47 of the Fitness Business Growth Podcast. I'm here with Steve Jenson, who has a whopping 35 years of sales experience. To put that in perspective, I'm 33 years old. So Steve has been selling memberships since before I was born. Today, we're talking about how sales have changed throughout the years. We're going to cover beliefs around sales, and we're going to finish with what are the best ways to convert leads.
Welcome to the Fitness Business Growth Podcast, a podcast run by gym owners for gym owners. My name is Mitch, and along with Jayme, we are your hosts, and we will be discussing all the important things that you need to run a successful fitness business. From marketing to lead generation to sales to retention to staff and much, much more. So if you are a fitness business owner, then this is for you. We hope you enjoy the following episode, and we will speak with you soon.
Steve, welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting me. Good to see you.
Mate, I really want to thank you for coming on. I'm truly humbled and honored that you would share your 35 years of sales experience with myself and our audience. So, Steve, how I start every podcast is really simple. I'm going to ask you a question. If I met you at a party and we didn't know each other, what do you do?
I help predominantly businesses make more money to make sure they have a lifestyle that they're proud of and can freedom to make choices. Because we know that there's not much in business that more sales won't fix. So what do you do?
It's one of my favorite things, Steve. Like, I've never, any problem in life, a lot of it can be fixed by making a sale. And today it is still maybe the highest form of dopamine human beings can actually exist if you make a sale.
It's like catching a fish. And at the end of the day, I remember back in my younger days, it was my very, very first sale, because I didn't pop out of mum going to be a sales professional. I'll give you the drum. So at the end of the day, it was had to go through all the other bits and pieces and, go to school, go to uni and all the stuff. And, I dabbled in finance and all the things and computers and things. But the day I opened a little club where there were no clubs in Australia, and it was just a place to train, because I was an athlete. I did quite well, and I was representative in a number of different codes, and I needed a place to train. There was no place to train. And I thought it would be a great idea to have a place where I could go. Anyway, long story short, mate of mine had a little place above the Commonwealth Bank and said, "Oh, you can have it." And put some carpet down and put some bits and pieces there. Went up to Queensland and went to a foundry, bought some weights, and then I just they were really ugly. So I came back and wire brushed them and red leaded them and sprayed them with gunmetal blue, stuck them on got some racks, and they gave me all these pipes. It was all just pipes, and you had to bolt them to the ground. Went down to bought some mirrors, stuck them on the wall as you need them back in those days. Always made the ones look bigger. And I've got my gramophone records and my gramophone, and brought it up there, and I put conduit up there. I thought I was just so clever. And the reason I tell you this,
can I jump in here? What year did you open this club? What year did you open the club?
In the 80s.
The 80s. And what, early 80s, late 80s? Is it before Die Hard 1 or after Die Hard 1?
Low to mid 80s. And there was no clubs around. The only place you could actually go was a YMCA, or a best little corner. The reason I tell you a little story is because I thought it would be, if someone came in, I could train them. A pretty good trainer. I was an athlete, and I had to create a program card, and so I put a little flyer together saying gym opening, $2 or $3, I think it was, coming for a workout. Now, by the way, we'll put it into perspective. You could buy everything for 10 cents, 20 cents, 50 cents back in those days. So anyway,
$2 to $3 for a workout or a membership? Like what was going on? There wouldn't even be memberships then.
There was no such thing as a membership. We're talking, there wasn't even fax. I remember the day fax? I was told about a fax. There was no such thing as a fax.
A fax machine.
Yeah. Probably some of the youngsters don't even know what that is. Anyway, we were sitting there, and I was drawing up a program card. And back in those days, I used to wear very short shorts and a proper tank top, and had a goatee beard and a Barry Gibb haircut and that sort of stuff. Anyway, I remember the day. And by the way, this lady is still a friend of mine. I had my Barry White albums going on in the background, and I was eating some food in my little, it was almost a cupboard, and I had, weights and stuff, and it's all tree frog green and all color coded beautifully. And the carpet was put in properly. Had air conditioning as well, because I was a bit of a wimp. I didn't like hot weather. Lady walked in and said, "Oh, look, I got a flyer," because I actually created a flyer. I got a stencil out and I drew the stuff and stuck some pictures from Women's Day and Weeder magazine and folded up and put it in people's letterboxes. I think it would be the first junk mail you'll ever see. Anyway, it just said, "Come gym opening, $2 or $3." I think it was $2 or $3 or whatever it was. She said, "I got this flyer." She was a little bit of a bigger lady, and I went, "Oh, okay, terrific." Now, I had never done a sale in my life. I sat down and I said, "Terrific, let's have a chat." And I put my chicken in the fridge. And she said, "What do you want?" So she said, "Oh, I need to lose some weight." So we had a bit of a chat, and we could certainly do that. It was all about nutrition back in those days, and I'll come back to that later. Anyway, told her how much it was, and she said, "Oh, what if I want to come every day?" I said, "Well, it'd be $2 a day or $3 a day." She said, "Well, what if I do you have a membership?" I just said, "What do you mean?" She said, "What if I had a membership? Come for 6 months a year?" I said, "Well, do you just pay every time?" And that was completely foreign to me. And she said, "Oh," I said, "All right." So I was pretty good, and I'm pretty good in numbers. So I quickly amortized it at 7.7 derivative and make it at a 9 derivative, and then took it back down. It was 200 plus something stuff. They were trading once or twice a week. And I was like, "Oh, okay, how about 195 for the year?" And she says, "Oh, okay, that's cheap." And I went, "Shit."
So 195 AUD for the entire year.
She said she would give me $195. You know what?
So
you talk about dopamine. I was off the Richter scale, because I was in Havana, mate. I mean, I've been working computers and done the banking thing, and only a young puppy. She's going to give me $195. That's like nowadays, like $2,000 or whatever. It's like crazy.
So that was my next question, Steve. Can you please paint a picture for the audience? What does $195 actually buy you in the early 80s?
Oh, gee whiz. You could get on a plane and go to Queensland and stay in a lovely hotel and come back and have change.
That's amazing. You can barely go out for a couple of drinks today for $195. Far out.
Mate, that's right. A few Coronas and you're shouting, cocktails, you're done.
Yeah.
Anyway, this lady was absolutely tickle pink. I ran over to my receipt, because I thought I'd get a couple of $2 or $3 or whatever for the day, and I gave her this receipt, and I didn't want to look super rookie, and I wrote this receipt for her, and I pulled it out in the middle of the receipt book, and I gave it to her, and she said, "Oh, terrific. How many members do you have?" And I looked at her and I said, "And you are the very first member. You're number one." I said, "You're the first person I've ever come in here." Yeah. So we spent tons of time together. Anyway, I learned pretty quickly, mate. But at the end of the day, I was doing some trading with her on the floor, and we're having a lot of laugh. I put the Beach Boys on to make it a little bit more upbeat. And a man called Ian Gifford walked in, and he was a bit upset with me because I stuck the flyer under his door. And he was a little fella. He yelled over it. He walked in and said, "Hey, did you put this under my door?" I said, "Yes." "Are you the guy that doesn't have a letterbox?" And he said, "Well, what gives you the right to put it under my door?" And I was a lot bigger man than I am now. I can give you the drum. And it was yelling across the room. So I was a little bit ticked off. And I walked up to him. I said, "Well, what's your problem?"
Imagine if that was the same way today as people slide into your message inbox offering you things. Like, what gives you the right to offer me things?
Well, he then said, "What have you got here?" And I had the lady waiting for me. I went, "What do you think it is? It's a gym. You got the flyer?" I was like, "Go away. You've been obnoxious." And I wasn't doing it for the money. I just wanted a place to train, and I was putting it to the public. Right. Anyway, he said, "Well, how much does it cost?" I said, "It's $195 a year." He said, "For a whole year?" I said, "Yeah. Well, if you don't want to join, it's okay." He said, "All right, well, when can I join?" I said, "Look, I'm flat out now. Come back in an hour."
Yeah. So that's interesting, right? Like, so you didn't want this person to join, so you pitched him a paid in full. He's like, "Okay, I'll do that."
Well, it was a paid in full because Anne asked me for the activity. It wasn't in my ethos. I didn't know what a membership was. I just want $2 or $3. Anyway, it evolved, and that day a lot of people came in, and a lot of people paid $195. No one paid me a few bucks. I went home to my partner, and she said, "Oh, how did you go today?" And I said, "Get $5 or get $10." And I went and I got my coffee jar and put it out there. And she said, "Oh my," because everyone paid cash back in those days, and because there was no credit cards, that did not exist, right?
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, goodness gracious." I went back the next morning because it didn't open till 12 o'clock because I had to train. I opened it to train, right? And because I resigned from the bank just to play, because I was getting sponsorships from sporting clubs and companies to wear their tracksuits and stuff. Anyway, I had all these people lined up outside. I went, "Oh, damn it, they want to get their money back." So I still had the coffee jar. And they
Sorry,
said, "Oh, my friend
can
would
I
like
jump in there, Steve? Why did they want them? Oh, so they had friends outside to join, or
thought
did they want
they
their
would.
money back? Oh, okay. So
Well, I thought they were. And we opened at 12 o'clock. There's a big pink sign says 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You know, I had a place to train. I needed to go to see my partner. I needed football training. I needed to go to karate. It was a 12 to 5 to convenient for me. It wasn't a commercial gym.
It's amazing, mate.
They said, "Oh, I want my friends to join."
Yeah.
And I said, "Look, it's 10 o'clock. It's we open at 12 o'clock." They said, "Oh, we won't bother you." I said, "You only joined yesterday." So I put it up there, opened up everything, put the air conditioning on, and we had 40 odd members join that day. The first day was about 20 odd, 21, and it was like chaos.
So just to confirm, mate, so they all paid in full.
Oh yeah, we didn't have credit card. It didn't exist.
So you're expecting
some paid a check. Some paid a check.
So you're expecting a couple of bucks a day, then all of a sudden you had 60 people pay you $195 up front
in 2 days.
$12,000 in the early 80s. You would have felt like the richest man alive.
Oh, you have no idea. I said, "My God, I'll be able to buy a new car. I'll be able to..." And I said, "If I don't get any more, that's okay." So, but it wasn't the case. It wasn't.
And
the
then
case.
I
we
guess
had a lot of fun there.
So at that point now, like who you are today, being doing sales for 35 years, did you even realize that was a sale transaction? Did you know that was a sales conversation, or were you just so green that you thought like, I open gym, I provide service, people pay me?
I had a financial background because I did work in a bank. I was fiscally sound. I'm pretty good with numbers, and I'm a strategist from a puppy, you know. So at the end of the day, as soon as it put on the table, it was a new paradigm. I shifted it quite quickly. I then did spreadsheets and so forth, and did some calculations, or started putting a target and budget. And by the way, I had no rent. I only had to pay electricity and phone bill. That was it, because my friend gave me the stuff upstairs. So the expenses were very, very low, but nothing like now. But no, I knew it was a sale, and I enjoyed it, and I knew what they were getting was going to make a real big difference to them. And I really got a charge out of training the people. I had a real problem though, because there were quite a few people in the early days, and I rung up some of my friends from the football team, and I said, "Look, can you come and help me?" And they said no. I said, "Well," and then I had to change the paradigm. I said, "Oh, they've got some really hot chicks coming down there." I said, "Okay, we're down there."
So like, so your gym, just so I can get a better understanding, compare it to a gym today. Was it like was it an Anytime Fitness only open from 12 till 5, or was it a boutique group fitness gym? Like what type of gym was it?
Oh, look, it would be at best a couple hundred square. I want 250 square meters. I had a toilet, one toilet, and a shower that I fixed up myself. They had to walk up a stairs from downstairs. It wasn't on the ground floor. It was a tiny little door. It was, yeah, it was a cupboard. Anyway, it grew, and I thought, wow, this is fun, and created lots of processes and systems, and I had an opportunity to have another one, and then went pop, 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 pop. Industry started to become a thing.
Can I define, Steve, how many pops? How many locations did you grow to?
At our heyday, we had 23.
23 locations.
Yeah.
And what was it called?
Oh, one was called Village, and the other one was called Galaxy.
Far out, 23 locations, 23 different physical locations. Were they all
That's
in?
right.
Were they all around Australia? Or were they in New South
No,
Wales?
no,
Where?
no, no. Just in Sydney, North Shore, and towards the eastern suburbs were a little bit expensive with the rents, but the rents were quite low back in those days. Yeah.
So when you had 23 locations and you started growing, and you were more, I guess, CEO, general manager of the group, at what point did you start to develop your sales process, your sales system, so you could have people run the other 23 studios?
Well, look, it didn't go from 1 to 23. I can assure you. It was a metamorphosis, so to speak. So what happened was we had 1 and then we had 2. 1 and 2 was easy. When we went to 3, the catastrophe. When you go from
And
1 to 2,
what was the catastrophe?
because you just did a little bit of flyers and so forth and stick it in the yellow pages, and that was easy. But then you've got to multiply yourself times 3. It was getting someone to be able to do the things that I did. See, 2's easy. 3, you've got to have systems. Now we started creating systems process. Well, remember, we didn't have computers back then. We're not on. There was no such thing as online. It was a telephone, and then later on down the track we got a fax. I mean, goodness gracious me! So everything was done in books. Everything was drawn up. It was all done with paper. We didn't even have credit cards. No credit card.
Man,
I remember the
speak
day
to that
I was
actually,
in my,
Steve. Yeah, I did a pre-sale in 2012 for Snap Fitness Tuggerah, and even in 2012, people had FPOS cards. They didn't really have Visa and MasterCard, so we had to collect BSB and account numbers to create memberships, and that was a challenge because people didn't have internet banking. So I can't even imagine what it was like. Like, did people have to give you their bank book detail? How did that even work?
look, someone couldn't pay, and by the way, it was paid in full. There was no direct debit. I'll come to direct debit later. Remember, there was no internet. Fax was just coming in. It was all, you get your cash and you get checks. You take your little bag to the bank every day and you deposit it. That's how business worked.
Man,
So that's how it worked.
And you had 23 bank bags, 23 deposits at the end of the day.
As I said, it was a slow metamorphosis. And then in the day, it wasn't all at once, and it took quite a long time because when the industry started to become quite vigorous, when something works, people find out about it. And, there's some really big operators like Valentine's came into play, and then there was Vigor. And they were really, they were very plush. They were nothing like my place. At the end of the day, our bikes were Aerodynes and stuff like that. And all of this, there was nothing, we didn't have pin loaded back in those days. And
so just to jump in again, Steve, I am dying with curiosity here. So over time, you grew it to 23 locations in Sydney. And then I guess the fitness industry started to catch on. Who, like, Fitness First was like 2007. So like, who was like in the 90s all the way up until Fitness First? Who were your competitors? Like, who came into the market and what was that brand?
John Valentine's was the big rock. Chuck Mabity came over here, and there was the orange and green, and they were very good. They were very good into calisthenics, which became aerobics, whatever you want to call it. Back in those days, they had everyone in the leotards initially, and it was it came from physical culture into calisthenics and calisthenics, and then it went into aerobics, and then Vigor came along, but also some really good bodybuilding strength training clubs opened, like Nautilus in St. Leonard's, and then Bill Moore opened up City Gym, which was iconic, and that they were the masters of packs. This is when the industry changed quite significantly. It changed from, I was playing around with memberships. People couldn't pay sometimes. We put the prices up, obviously, as progressed to $2.95 and all the other stuff. In the meantime, because I had done a lot of background in medical and sport, I then went into the psychology area. I was really interested in the human brain. And I did a program that, I met some phenomenally clever people. I started psychology at uni, but then I decided to change to neural order, which is the granddaddy of a process everyone knows about called NLP.
Yep.
I studied there for 5 years, but I really wasn't just to be, I just wanted to know how to communicate. And because we were in the people business, because we weren't in the fitness business, it was about the people, about to train people, about how to make them feel happy, how to work with your staff, and leadership and sales go hand in hand. I believe that selling is leadership. And if you don't
100%.
start with the soft skill is not taught at uni. It's not taught. So I was actually an absolute disciple. And long story short, I graduated, became professor in that area, and then all of a sudden it became very cliquey. Bandler and Grinder split up, and then they went into NLP, and as it is at this point of time. But I put the processes. I didn't want to teach people that communication. I just put it into processes and tools using soft skills with trigger points, which it made it a system that I could teach my team. So I created tools. Which they could utilize. So I could actually have a prompt. Now, back in the old days, we used to call them scripts, but they're really prompts now. And then you have tools to be able to then don't have to remember all the questions. You have trigger points to actually access the mesocycles, to create an emotional modality. So someone makes a decision to buy, you don't have to sell. And this has always been the ethos with ITC Impact Training.
So just to jump in, sorry, mate. So you studied NLP. Then you realized that selling was persuasion, selling was communication. Then you created tools and systems into your location so that your staff could do the same things that you were doing, to have genuine conversations, to discover those triggers, and to help people make a decision without feeling like they've been sold.
Yes. The problem with a lot of managers and leaders and owners now is they're very skilled. Our industry is studded with phenomenally skilled individuals. I mean, really, they just have the DNA to be able to have a chat with someone, and they'll buy something, and they've inspired the person to become a member. That's, if anyone's writing anything down, write that down. Inspire someone to become a member, not close the sale. Okay, let's keep that in mind. But there's a big but here. When you know something really well, and you know it, you want to teach somebody, but you want them to learn it quickly. But you remember, learning is about a neural pathway. It's just like a muscle. Repetition's the mother of learning. Now, everyone hates role play, so we call it PDR, practice, drill, rehearse. We knew that as an athlete, as a strength trainer, as a fighter, as a sprinter, we need to do significant amount of practice. Significant. Make sure the muscles were strong, make sure they're recovered, and so forth. So when I started putting these things, and I just did it innately because I'd done the training, I created the tool, I knew what to do. I said, wow, we have a problem here. We've got great tools, but they don't know. They can understand what I'm saying, but they don't know how to do it. So we arduously went through and trained the people on how to use the tool. So then they knew what it was, why it was used, and how to do it. And we did practice on a regular basis. And my team really loved it because it really wasn't selling skills. It was communication skills. And they went home and used with their mum, dad, sister, brother. And it was really great fun. And then they evolved into leaders. And then the leaders then empowered others. So when we created the systems and the tools, that was the first step. But then it was actually, how do you impart and empower your team members to do it? And by the way, not pretty good at sales, but I can assure you, some of my team members were much better. And that's when you know you've succeeded, because they are putting into play. So as we progressively went from 2 to 4 to 5 or 6 or whatever, we then evolved. And I used to get feedback from my team. I said, what could we do better? And they used to come back with some stuff, and I knew it was neurolinguistically sound. I said, that's a very good idea. And I'm learning from these people that don't even know the ins and outs of let's say, the analytics of it all. They were just doing it. So I then put it into process. So I'm very good at taking a thing, putting into a process to then create scalability. And
it's interesting. You said repetition and doing the thing, and repetition is the mother. Or repetition is the skill of learning. Sorry, yeah.
Repetition is the mother of learning and skill.
Repetition is the mother of learning. It is so interesting, right? Because like as a fitness professional, we understand squat, deadlift, bench press. You do reps, you get stronger, you improve your technique, and it compounds over time, and you become an amazing squatter, deadlifter, or bench presser. And then fit pros come into the industry and think they can sell from day one. Like if it took you 1,000 reps to master a squat, maybe it might take you 1,000 role plays. It is the exact same thing. Like it's unreasonable to think you'd be good at sales if you haven't sold before. The same reason it would be unreasonable to think you can do an ass to grass squat if you've never had a barbell on your back.
No, you're absolutely correct. There are some people that are have it in their DNA. They're innately, we call them intuitives. And there are some around. They just come along, they steer to it, and they just duck to water. And sometimes to try to systemize and process an intuitive sales professional is detrimental to that person. But if you want to create a business that is a communication business, or remember, I keep saying it and you'll get sick of it, we are in the people business by way of our product or service. Become
100%.
very good with people and have an outcome-based business. I want to have a communicator, not to sell them, to get them excited about buying and give me the money, the credit card or whatever it may be, and say thank you. And if we get that ethos, sure, you have to have calls to action. Sure, you've got to make sure you have those conversations. But as you know, you talk or speak to more people and you make more sales. And back in those days, it was all about getting out there and talking. We didn't have internet. We eventually started doing fax streams. We used to send out mail, bulky mail, with a letter, with a stamp on the bloody thing. And people don't even know how to write an envelope these days. And then we used to get a phone call. No one could send us an email because they wanted to know they walked in or made the call. Sometimes the phone used to go absolutely nuts and go. So we had to get 3 or 4 lines in and then go ring, 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 ring. And that was a high priority. So I had to train my people to pick up the phone. And by the way, it wasn't a mobile phone. It was one of those phones that you picked up. It was a red phone or a white phone, and you had a chat with somebody with a cord.
Yeah.
So that was how it operated.
Yeah. The first mentor I ever had, Steve, his name was Andre. I met him in Canada. He really changed my life. He was the first person that had shattered some beliefs. And he said, Jayme, when your mum walked, it was a World Gym, by the way, World Gym in Kelowna. He says, if your mum walks into this gym, what does she see? And I was so perplexed by the question, what do you mean, Andre? He's like, I'll tell you what she sees, Jayme. She sees stuff, and this stuff scares her. So your job is to have that conversation and become a people person. They are buying the outcome, i.e. the result. They are not buying the Life Fitness treadmill. They are not buying the Nautilus lat pull down. They are not buying the Techno Gym chest press. They are buying the result. And I think Fit Pros, we love fitness so much that we can't help but talk about our modality, but no one cares until you connect with them.
That's true. I'll take it one step further. People buy the result, but I will go one step further. They don't buy the result. They buy the feeling the result will give them and what they're trying to avoid. Let's say it's Skinny Steve is at the beach and he's embarrassed. So he goes in and says he wants to be big. His result is to get bigger and buffed up and look great. But really, if it's an authentic conversation, Steve will tell you he's too skinny. Steve will say that I'm embarrassed. And then he's going to get trained and help him with some nutrition. And then we get bigger. So you can stop feeling embarrassed.
Yeah. So Steve, what is the impact?
It's called a now factor. And guys, if you're listening to this, please listen to what I'm saying. The now factor is I don't want to get big. The now factor is I don't want to be skinny anymore. The outcome of that is I'm bigger. If it's Steve's, it's too big, too fat, too chubby. It's not that I want to be slimmer and more buffed up. That's an outcome. What's the feeling? So I feel proud and not embarrassed anymore. That is called the now factor. And that needs to be established before we explain anything about the activity, whether it's training, whether it's group exercise, whatever. And when we talk about the machines, free weights and so forth, is absolutely the worst, the 2 worst things done in our industry by far is number 1, telephone skills. Number 2 is the tour. Now we throw out the tour about 5 years ago. We call it proofing now. We sure
I hate the tour, Steve. I don't care about the personal training board.
So at the end of the day, we say tour. Okay, it is a tour, but what are you going to do? You find out Steve's the problem. You teach him a little bit in the qualification modality. Show that you are an expert, so that you know what you're talking about. And this is where back in the olden days, we were much better at closing sale before we took them for a walk around a gym. You have to make sure you prove you know what you're talking about on the tour, but you've got to establish your credibility. Now, because in those days, everyone was in great shape doing their sales and so forth, they could see it. But then we took them over for a bit of a wonder. We then proved what we said was true. Now, this process is full circle now. It's not about the offer. The offer gets the opportunity. It's how do we prove what we said is true, that I'll invest my time and money into working with you and your team. It's not about, I'm going to get $1 cheaper up the road or no joining fee. It's irrelevant. And this is where the industry has really come full circle. Now the people are doing really well. People that we created a model a number of years ago called inking. And then everyone knows what a USP, but they don't know how to use them. But we use the process of the modality of inking to USP. It's called a flow. And when you know how to do it, it's the holy grail to close. And back in the olden days, it was done by default because that's all we'd used to do.
Can you give me an example of inking and flow, please?
Okay. You've got Skinny Steve coming in there. He has a bit of a chat and he knows he needs to do training and workouts. Well, does he really know that you're an expert? And what the hell does that all mean? And you'll say, oh, look, you might not know. In other words, you might, but you might not know. Steve, did you actually know that when you train in the gym, you feel as though you're getting bigger, but you're not? Right. Because you're going to get most of your building is in your sleep. In the first 70 minutes, to make sure you get a lot of sleep, you got to make sure that rapid eye movement takes place the first 70 minutes. That's when the hormones get released into the body. That's when the broken down muscle starts to grow. So you've got to get good sleep. And straight after your workout, you've got to have some nutrition that's going to be, within half an hour or so forth. Some people just don't know that. And if you train without doing that, you're not going to get big real fast. They go, shit, I didn't know that. That's all right. We're experts at doing that. We got your back. Now, that's just a building thing. I mean, everyone knows that stuff. Do they? I mean, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the wonderful word called HIIT training came in place. And when everyone started to learn the word EPO, oh, my goodness. Everyone knows about that. No, they don't. Well, let's get someone comes in and say, oh, look, you might not know that if you're training for about 20 to 30 minutes, about 83% of your max heart rate, guess what? You'll continue to burn off calories for up to 36 hours. So you'll be actually burning off calories in your sleep. So you'll be shrinking in your sleep. See, some people don't know that. The way we do that is make sure we monitor your heart rate. What would you think would happen if you were training outside that heart rate and they say, I wouldn't lose the weight? You're spot on. I wouldn't be more as effective. Well, don't worry. We're the first club to actually use this sort of training and make sure you can continue to burn off calories in the sleep. Okay. They go, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So all of a sudden.
What you said then is really important, but you can't start talking about that shit until you understand what they want to accomplish and what you would call is the now factor. What are they trying to achieve? Why is it important to them? What is the impact if they do? What is the impact if they don't? Then they actually want what you have. They understand why they want to achieve it. And then you can start what I would call solution drop and prove to you that, hey, your tour would be a pitch. Hey, like X goal, X result, X goal, X modality, X goal, X modality. We combine those three things. As you can, Skinny Steve can see, you are going to get those results, but he has to want them first.
Just recap what you just said.
So I was saying
how as you explained it.
Yeah. So for example, like
I understood it, but, and there's a but here. What you need to do is to take what you just said and put it into a process which you can teach. So we created a model, back in the olden days, and it's commonplace now, where you'll have a process of needs analysis per se, where someone talks to themselves by typing on an iPad. And by the way, writing it is so much more effective, but anyway. And then they talk to themselves. We created a model, which has gone around the world 1,000,000 times, because after I sold my clubs, we then opened up Impact Training. And then I had the opportunity to work very, very fortuitously with Les Mills, and that opened up the world to me. And that's when we multiplied Impact Training globally, and we went global quite quickly. But I then got into a lot of clubs and saw what they were doing. And by the way, Australia leads the field in most cases.
Really?
But I can assure you, the problem was when you actually create the needs analysis, people don't know how to use it. So it had to be trigger pointed. So we created a model called the 4 Ws. And the process is what, where, why, secret how, when, big how. And just recently, in the last 2 years, we've upgraded it. It goes what, where, why, secret how, when, big how. Now, when you actually learn that modality, and it's a conversation piece, I can teach that, put it on a tool, and show you how to ask questions about the person's answers. And guess what? That is 85% of compelling argument. When you find the compelling reason to buy or become involved in your club or studio, then you need to take them through and do the tour. Now, what you just explained was the tool. We call it PFEB. Pain, bring up the pain. Feature, a USP feature. The benefit to you is no more pain. So you can have a feeling, and that's what you're wanting, isn't it? Great.
100%.
We got your back. So that's called PFEB. Pain, feature, benefit, emotion, agreement. Pain, Steve, you're a bit on the lean side. Come over here, touch this, feel this, have a feel. You might not know, you might not know. Hey, the benefit is going to get bigger. You know, that t-shirt's going to be a bit tight on you. You're okay with that? And I'll laugh. Benefit,
so
feeling. You stop feeling uncomfortable at beach and start feeling proud. Emotion. That's what you're wanting, isn't it? Agreement, using a tie down. And I'll say, yes, great. Let me show you something else. That's called PFEB. Now, you can teach someone PFEB, but if you then tell them, got to do this, got to do that, you can't teach someone that. You just can't teach them that. You've got to say,
sales guy, yeah. With our sales guy, Steve, with our sales guy, Steve, we have like really 5 parts of the script. So we have situation. So you want to uncover, well, like, why did they book the call? What sparked their interest? What is their current situation? I.e., I want to lose 10 kilos. Part of that process is how long has it been since you've reached your goal, creating a gap. From there, we go into what have you tried previously? Super important if they've been to a boutique gym, for example, before. You understand they've paid that price, what they like, what they didn't like. And then we move into the why, which is what we've just gone in deep. Like the why is the most important part. And the why would be like, so Steve, understand that you want to lose 10 kilos. So tell me, like, why exactly is it so important that you do lose these 10 kilos? And then they'll say, oh, because to have more energy. And then I use Chris Voss's never split the difference mirroring tactic to have more energy. Yeah, so I can go to the beach. So you can go to the beach. Yeah, so I can feel comfortable there. You don't feel comfortable at the beach? No, I'm not comfortable with my kids. It's impacting your kids. Yeah, I'm embarrassed to go to the beach with my kids, so I don't take them there. And we want to walk them down a path to bring up that pain. And then they are all ears for your solution, or what you would call is it your Phoebe is what you call it?
The Phoebe would be on the tour. What you've just done is your needs analysis model. Now, by the way, guys, listen to what was just said. The answer to the question Jayme gave them was the answer. Then the skill, and this is what you got your listeners need to learn, is the skill is to ask questions about the answers. That is the skill in your PDR, your practice.
Oh, I like that. Sorry, can I repeat that? To learn to ask questions about the answers you get in other language to go one step deeper.
2 steps.
2 steps. 3 steps.
Absolutely. See, there's levels of communication. Hey, honey, how's your weekend? How's work today? Oh, it's pretty good. How was yours? Mine was great. What's for dinner? Like, I don't give a shit. Hi, honey, how's your day? Oh, it's pretty good. Oh, what happened? And she tells you, so what's planned for tomorrow? In other words, I'll ask a question about the answers. In other words, I'm having a level 2 or level 3 conversation. Someone said, oh, what result do you want? Oh, why is that a problem? I'm feeling embarrassed. Interesting. Tell me more. So interesting. Tell me more. Okay. Anything else? Okay. So what you've told me is ABC. If I've got it right, got it. We can help you with that. See, it's the questions, and that's the skill. We can give them a model. What, where, why, secret how, when, big how. We can give them PFEB, and they'll get it. But it's listening and asking questions about the answers. In other words, having a care factor. See, we've got to go from selling to helping. And by the way, we're going from helping. We'll then ask them to inspire them to buy, because they'll say, here's my money. When can I start? It's like if you go to the doctors and you're sick and they can operate on you straight away and fix you. You want to do it straight away. Same thing. But sales People say, oh, that's sales. No, it's a system and a process. And like Bruce Lee said, a great martial artist is like water. Water
It
can
can
be
either
hot,
flow or it can crash.
and it can be hard, it can be strong. He said, you want to be great at martial arts? Be water, my friend. And I'll say to every sales professional owner out there right now, learn your systems and process. Learn it. And there's lots of them around. Learn it, but make it your own. And the only way to do that is not practice on your clients. And you would hate a doctor to practice on their patients. You got to do your PDR on a daily basis. Daily. Not big, long flow PDRs, like whole phone calls, whole tour. No, that's called assessment. Then you find out the weaknesses, 2 or 3 little modalities, and you do that every day. And we have a process called 6+3+1, which accelerates the learning. And after 5 days, that modality is locked and loaded, and it's good to go. And
So
it fast tracks training.
What's 6+3+1, Steve?
If you understand how people learn, VAKs, everyone knows about it, but 60% or more people are visual learners. But you only learn by doing. We understand the word, but if you don't actually say it out loud, not in your head, you will not learn it. That is a guarantee. It is a guarantee that you will not learn it. You will understand it. Number one. 6+3+1 takes the adage that you need to hear, say, and do something 6 times to get 62% retention. Now think about it. Hey, Jayme, I want you to learn this. You got to build rapport. We say it like this, and you go, yeah, I got it, Steve. Okay, off you go. That's what managers do. I did a training 3 months ago. Yeah, you haven't done this. You haven't done that. You got to use the script. You got to say the 4 W's. Come on, mate. You got to do the win. Do one for me. Yeah, you can do it. Off you go. No, that is called stupid. And it's making the salesperson feel inadequate. Then he'll do it. He hasn't created a different neural pathway. What is he going to do? He's going to be stilted, and he's going to do it worse. So the owner is actually crippling the salesperson. So what you do is say, Steve, you're a little bit dodgy there. Let me show you how I'd like to be done. Would you like to learn it? Okay, your turn. My turn. Your turn. My turn. Your turn. 6 times. Great. Then you say, Jayme, 3 times, off you go. Do it without a mistake. Mistake. Again. 1, 2, 3. Good. No mistake. 1 more for good measure. Awesome. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll put it to bed. Now, could you imagine taking a part of your sales process? Could be a close. It could be overcoming an objection. Whatever it may be. And you did it that way just for 20 minutes a day. Could you imagine how damn good you would be after 5 or 7 days in a row doing that?
So
that
as
modality would be there.
So the manager says, hey, Steve, you have to improve your sales process. And then he tells you 3 months later, if you pick a part of the sales process, i.e., how do you start a phone call 6 times, 3 times, 1 time, do it a couple of days in a row, they're going to nail that modality.
5 to 7.
5 to 7 days, they're going to nail that modality, and then they can move on to the next thing. So you almost
not the whole phone call, not the whole phone call, mate.
Yeah. So
hello,
for example,
it's just the thing they're doing poorly, and it's usually finding compelling reason. It could be asking them to book an appointment, whatever it may be. Just take that small part, nail it, and then review it at the end of the week.
I like that. So break down the sales process into incremental parts, repetition, practice, get better, nail it, and then you'd move on to the next thing, and then you'd nail that. And then over a 10 to 12 week period, if there's 12 parts of your sales process, practice, repetition, you will be there in 12 weeks time. And I guess what you're saying is a typical GM will say, hey, Steve, get better at sales. And then in 3 months time, they'll say, hey, Steve, you're not better at sales. What do you expect?
Well, it's usually at the end of the month where Steve hasn't made his target, and they get grumpy on the 30th of the month. Shit months. And I'd like everyone to write this down. What you talk about most becomes important. What you talk about most becomes important. And you might say you've got 100 sales for the month, and you bring it up at the end of the month, and you've only done 63. You're ticked off. You're disappointed. Well, you got to if you're the owner or the manager, give yourself an uppercut. Because if you've got to make 100 sales, you know how many sales you need to make per day. You'll know how many appointments you need. You know how many leads you need. You know how many contacts you need. And if you're not helping and managing or reviewing what your team are doing on a daily basis, you are not serious about your business. And it's not about
100%.
micromanaging. It's about understanding. Now, let's say Steve's struggling. His call to contact is low. His contact to booked appointment is good, but his show rate sucks. Well, he's crap on the phone. But guess what? He's going to continue to do the same thing without any change. But you say, hey, man, increase your show rate. Use the script. Okay, you got to do this. You got to do that. Build some rapport. Take your time, mate. Take your time. Make sure you get the win. You know, build compelling reason. You know the 4 W's. Yep. Nothing will change. And then you're ticked off at the end of the, let's say he's a crap salesperson. Well, the poor man or woman is under duress. You're not leading
100%.
him or helping him become better. That's where you've got to find out where the weakness is. And that's why we do PDR all the time. And it's fun. It's called practice, drill, rehearse. It's role play, not role serious, right? It's have fun. And role play on the run is great fun. And by the way, when we used to do this a lot, even with the clubs we work with all around the world, we'll actually randomly call Bob up and say, hey, mate, how you going? Hey, how's you having the problem with the attitude adjustment closed a while? Hey, you nailed that? Oh, yeah. Hey, let's do it now. Bang. Role play on the run. And he just puts it to bed. I send him a little gift in the mail. I used to do it with my team. Used to do some manager used to tell me they were doing some PDR with, let's say, Francois. I used to walk into the club. Hey, mate, how you going? I've been doing a bit of this. And they go, yeah. Show me how good you are. He goes, oh, you get me nervous. I said, man, I heard that you're nailing it. He does it. I take out my envelope. I give him a gift, $20, $50. He fails. Yeah. That's okay. He doesn't get the $50. Oh, let's do a bit more training. Hey, Jayme,
what I
more.
really like about that, Steve, is I speak to lots of gym owners that say they got shitty trainers, shitty sales staff, and at the end of the day, if your staff are underperforming, take ownership and take responsibility. You haven't put them in the position to be successful. If you haven't followed the outline that Steve's just gone through of that daily repetition, of course they're going to forget stuff. Of course they're not going to do things. So what systems do you have in place? And I love that, Steve. What gets spoken about is important. And if your sales target's 100 a month and you've got 30 sales 20 days in, well, then you haven't been giving them the daily updates. So that's on you, not your staff.
And then when you get the updates not working, it's not, see, you manage process, lead people. If they're not following the process, find out where they've gone wrong. Don't get grumpy. Help them. And this is where leadership comes in. People say, I don't have the time. I say, well, look in the mirror and find the time. If it's important, find the time. If it's not important, don't complain about it. It's ownership, my friend, because and it comes right back down to the initial training. Look, right back down to induction. Our induction into the industry is horrific. You get a new person in place, you find out how to do the front desk and so forth, and you get them all on the old leads and make them do phone calls. Are you serious? This is pandemic. It's crucifying salespeople right now. And I've seen people still doing it, even people we've worked with. Oh, we've got Johnny going to legacy leads. Why? They've said no 100 times. They don't like your offer. You're calling the person to get rejected or no answers. That will create call reluctance.
Yeah, you're setting the salesperson up for failure.
You don't teach people any phone work from the beginning. Now, by the way, this is something that's quite unique to our training. We never teach phone work ever from the get-go. After the ops are done, you always present price presentation. Why? Because you get the numbers clear in their head, whether you use a tariff, whether you use and by the way, do not do an auditory close. Like I'm just talking, it must be show, either draw it, put it on a tariff, teach them the close, show them the price presentation, ask them, and you make sure they nail that before you do anything else.
Yeah,
once that's done,
because someone can be amazing at building rapport, but if they can't close, they can't close. But if they can close, you can fix the call upstream.
And you got to get comfortable with from green to red brain.
I want to jump in there, mate, because so with our Done For You Everything service, we only sell over the phone. So a lot of that visual, i.e. writing the price down, is removed from that. With Impact Training Corporation, how do you coach people over the phone compared to how do you coach people in person?
Okay, if when we do coaching with people, and we'll do it on a Zoom now. We won't if it has to be on the telephone call. We'd have to give them a prompt in front of them, and they would have to read it verbatim to us. In other words, create the neural pathway of the perfect phone call, which will never ever happen. Will never happen. But you've got to follow the process. So you have to put the process in place first. Firstly, make sure they understand the flow and have the perfect role play. It's called a full flow read. Read it right through to the end. Firstly, before we even do that, we get them to read it out loud 3 times to themselves, sitting in the cupboard, on the toilet, I don't care. Read it out loud first. Then we then say, right, we then break up the telephone call into either 3, 4, or 5 chunks. As we all know, the initial contact is the most important. So we have to have upbeat tempo. I don't want to have tempo at the beginning. I just want to get the words right. Once they know the words, we can then change the delivery. So chunk 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. Great, nailed it. Chunk 1 and 2. Now they know chunk 1 already, but now they get a massive repetition. 1, 1, 2, 2, so chunk 1 and 2. Now it depends on how big 1 and 2 are. Then we might go, oh, you're bloody good at number 1. Let's go 2 and 3. So they'll go 2 and 3. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Great. Let's do 1, 2, and 3. Room.
Yeah.
Again.
So just
again.
once again, it's just the reps, just getting the reps in to improve as a sales
Then you
professional.
go through to 4 and 5. 4 and 5, 4 and 5. Awesome. Let's do 3, 4, and 5. Now let's go to the full flow. That was really good, Steve. Okay, now you've learned how to do it. We'll do it again tomorrow. Not
In
you
your
know what to do.
Yeah. In your experience, Steve, like 35 plus years, like selling in person over the phone, if you're a gym owner in 2023, what would you recommend, in person or over the phone?
Oh, look, number 1, a belly-to-belly sell is so much easier. However,
It's belly to belly,
you
you mean
can get
face to face, sorry?
face-to-face in the club, no
Yeah.
question about it. You got the energy, you got the smile, you got the smell, you got your tactile components and so forth. So much better, right? How on the big rock here, people get lazy. Our industry has become phenomenally lazy. Phenomenally lazy. They don't pick up the phone. They don't do the calls. They don't do follow up. They always rely on emails and text messages. They think automation's the key to get someone bombarded with a whole lot of electronic stuff. Come back. We're in the people business. Have a conversation. It's how many conversations you're having, not how many emails you're sending out. Those
100%.
emails are the great conversations. So if you want to make sure that in our industry that we have some success, you got to talk to more people. Belly to belly is better. Next, Zoom. In COVID, we actually created a model called Zoom Mastery. It was something that we were doing prior to COVID, quite interestingly enough. And it was, we then said, right, we have a thing called Zoom Switch. I get you on the phone. I find compelling argument, create a bit of rapport USP. And I know when you want to get the outcome. And then, by the way, when you ask when you want the result, that's called future pace. Okay, that's a good question. But it's not a now question. We've included a when. So now, when did you want to get out? That's doable. Well, so when would you want to start that journey? That's called a subconscious preframe to close. I want to start straight away. Well, that's December, I take it. Yeah. Okay. The sooner we do that, the better. Otherwise, you're not going to get result by June. So now you've got a now factor. Now, if you've got someone say, look, Steve, where are you right now? Oh, I'm at home. Are you close to a computer? Yeah. Internet access? Terrific. So look, you can come and have a chat with us. But more important, let's have a quick. Have you ever used Zoom before? Yeah. I'll send you a Zoom link. We'll have a quick chat and cut to the chase.
So Steve,
get you ready.
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to jump in there and just challenge you. It's the first thing that I disagree on since we spoke on this call. So we one call close, as in we close 100% over the phone into the gym. And I feel as though that going from a phone call to a Zoom link would add more friction into the process. And people,
depending on what you're selling. You're selling a short-term program, 2 months, 6 weeks or whatever. You can ask for small money over the phone, whether it's $100, $300, doesn't matter. It's a short-term commitment. If you want someone to join your gym on a 12-month membership and buy personal training and use all your bits and pieces, you need to go belly to belly. Now I'll put you to bed on that one.
In
Short-term
regards
program,
to,
$97, $197. That's a no-brainer. If I'm excited,
yeah,
it's a good price, easy to do. That's not hard.
yeah.
But if you
So
want
there's
someone to
people.
join as a membership, get them on a Zoom or get them on a belly to belly.
Yeah. So I guess my in my experience, the difference would be is I would agree with you. It is easier to close someone in person than over the phone. But then by allowing them to book in a phone call, you're going to have more conversations because it's more convenient for the other person. For example, they could opt in now, they could book in a phone call at 5 p.m. this afternoon when probably the gym owner's in the gym running sessions, right? So I think for us, what we've chosen is like we would accept a slightly less close percentage, but we'd have a much higher lead to booking percentage. And the end
So you're
result
talking
is
about
still more sales.
if you're getting a low entry program sale and to get the person in, sure, no problem. No problem. But you're talking about your clubs, but also a business that actually does this for a living. So let's go down to we've got to go to the common denominator here. And this is a mistake a lot of owners do. And I'm vehement about it. I've been doing this a very long time. I know it works. And, the young guns come along and tell me, well, I've seen it happen. If you're very, very good at something, you're very good, and you live it, and you say, oh, no, this is what everyone has to do. No, you go to at any time, you go to a Jets, you go to a Fitness First, where you have limited training and then a high expectation to get them to close over the phone, which is an exceptionally good skill to learn on a low entry program. You're going to have a lot of leads burned. You got to go to the lowest common denominator. So
you feel as though
best practice
for a new person in the industry would be contact the lead as fast as possible, have that be a triage call, and then you'd invite them into the club.
Ideally, now if this process that you teach them is done over a period of time, like I'm sure you teach your people with repetition, and they actually can say it in their sleep, and that's the process that your business has to sell them a short-term program, 1 month, 2 months, whatever it may be, 6 weeks, and it's $197 to $199, and that's your way that you do business. Then that's the way you do business. You don't say, "Come on in." And by the way, you're correct when you say booked appointment. Then we got to look at show rate. If you've done a shit job, you got a low show. Then there's follow up. So I would agree there, 100%. But if you've got them in locked and loaded on a trial of a paid trial is better than a free trial, then they're at least committed. And then, but if your business is doing that, terrific. But if you look around the industry right now, they're not doing that. They'll have an offer, no joining fees, 6 months or whatever it is, and their business wants their staff to book an appointments. If I went in to say to them, hey, change your marketing, change your calls to action, and get all your guys to sell $97, $197 6-week programs to get them in, they'd have a meltdown. So I've got to go into the lowest common. I've got to make sure that when we go to a business, we see what they're doing and we can advise them. But, the industry is very, very slow at making changes. But if that business is a low entry program model, and that's what I mean, as you know, com marketing do it, you do it and so forth, and you train your people to do it well, beauty. If there's no other option, great.
I think where I've seen Steve, like I'm not talking about a 24-hour gym here. I'm talking about the majority of gym owners I talk to would be an owner operator of a boutique gym. So for example, they're running a typical group timetable and they haven't got time for those in-person appointments. So in that situation, they need to learn to sell over the phone. The only other option is they invite people in for a session. They do a free trial. At the end of the session, hey, do you want a membership? Right. So they're the two options for, I guess, the people that we tend to help with our model. But yeah, for a 24-hour gym, I can understand 100% why you'd want to invite them into the club. But I also know that there's people online that sell 26-week programs for $3,000 over the phone directly. So if they're selling a program online with a lack of trust for 26 weeks for $3,000, a brand like Anytime Fitness, one of the biggest franchises in the world, do you think that the industry needs to evolve to improve to help that person sell, whether it is a $99 trial or a $199 trial, or sell over the phone? Or do you think that, or do you think that the industry is nowhere near that yet, where that sort of thing could be rolled out?
Look, early adopters are great. I love working with early adopters. We have 16 sites globally that will do new things all the time, and they'll just take it on board. I'm quite anal in making sure it will work. I don't want them to risk anything or losing some money. So they know I've been working with them for a very long time. The industry as such, industry is slow to adopt new things. What they will be good at is a quick fix. So if they can see there's an opportunity to have a low entry in, the problem here is if you're selling your low entry, and by the way, people are doing it online where they'll opt in for 197 for a challenge or whatever it may be. The outcome is not just in 197. You want them to become a member. So it's taking them from that paid trial to make sure when they come in, because you've got to get them belly to belly, you've got to come in from that buying it online on the phone to booking them in for their first experience. How are we going to get them to become a member afterwards? Now, people always throw out the numbers. Oh, we got a 70% close rate. We got a 60% close rate. I'll eat my left shoe. And I've never seen anyone give me the 7 to 80%. When I check the data, it's usually about 20 and 30%, and they nearly have a coronary.
So I need to jump in. I need to jump in there. So if it's a paid trial and they pay the ongoing weekly membership fee, i.e., for example, 28 days for 199, the ongoing membership is 50 a week. I've seen it about 70%.
So you're saying that they join for 3 months, and then is the payment then continues thereafter without asking them to continue, or do you have to resell them at the end?
So typically how it works, it'd be a 28-day program, right? For 199. We send them into the gym, or they come into our gym. I still have 2 gyms myself. On that first phone call, just so you know, your membership does roll over day 29 and beyond. It's a 12-month membership. The good news is the price is exactly the same as you paid for the trial. Let me know throughout the 28 days what you'd like to do. And as long as you have their card details, as long as they've paid that weekly amount, as long as your 28-day program is as good as you think it is. And here's the thing, Steve, every single gym owner I've ever met says, I just need to get people in my doors. Then I have seen conversions around 70%. Where it does fall off is when you do a 7-day trial and then all of a sudden you try and jack their price to 65, or when you do 28 for 28 or 30 for 30. So I think that initial sale and the price they pay might be the biggest factor for them continuing onto that 6 or 12-month option. It's when the
join on the short term.
Yep.
So they join short term. You explain it over the phone, it will continue. And if they aren't uncomfortable within a period, they can always opt out, but they have to have the paperwork to continue. Now, this is a different conversation when you just say short term, but if you've got a opt out, like a risk reversal, and you've got a upfront payment initially, and then it will continue thereafter, absolutely. We call it a quality guarantee close.
Okay.
Which means that say, hey, join now for your 6 weeks. It's going to be this much. It'll continue at $27 a week for 12 months. If you're not happy within that period of time, you just tell us, we'll just snip it. But at the end of the day, you've got the paperwork done at point of sale. Now, that 100%. Is a different conversation where most people will have, hey, get started on a 6-week trial and I'll get the $97. They will not get the direct debit done. They will not give them a quality guarantee, then try to flip them at the end. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't work.
Okay. So you're saying that you're saying the majority of things that you see is they will have some type of front end challenge that's poorly priced. And then the conversion on that front end challenge that isn't done at point of sale, you're told it's 70%, but you think you see 20. Mate, we agree. We agree.
Bingo. So see, now we've got more specificity with your modality. So when you say short term, is that good to go? I'll say no. But what you've done, and guys, listen to what we're saying here. This is a good conversation. It's a good conversation. We've got an opportunity on the phone. It's a great opportunity to have low risk short term and maybe get a little bit of size or whatever it may be. And then they've got a taster that if I like it, I'll continue at that rate. And they've got to agree to that from the get-go. And there's a risk reversal in it too. I could see 70, 80% close because that gives the person the freedom to make choices. Where it doesn't work, when you have really cheap, and then you say, oh, right, it's $199 or $50 for 6 weeks, they all of a sudden say, hey, gee whiz, it's now $25 a week. They go, oh my God. The
Yeah.
perception of value. And then you've got to try to flip them. Flip closing died 100 years ago, but people
Yeah,
are
I
still
agree.
doing it.
I agree.
So
And that's where
what you're saying,
I
Jayme,
get,
you're spot on.
yeah, that's where I get not frustrated, but I speak to a lot of franchisees, mate, and they run a lot of offers that are like 2 for 2. So it's $2 for 2 weeks. And that's where their conversion's at 20%, because all of a sudden they associate $1 per week, and then you try and charge them 104 a fortnight. And even if they've enjoyed your program, it's a tough pill to swallow. And that's where, like, I think where I'm so passionate about, it's just like like for them to like. I think what bothers me, Steve, too, is like I think the fitness industry is just disrespected. Can I have a free trial? Can I have free this? Can I have free that? Can I have free this? Can I have free that? No other industry in the world can you walk in for free shit. And it comes down to, I don't think we need more Steve Jensons in the world to teach these sales processes so that you can either invite them into the club or sell them a higher ticket over the phone so that you can have a higher quality customer, get a higher quality service, higher quality conversion. And with that brings more referrals. And with that, it's actually less operational complexity in the business because you need less people in total.
No, you're correct. And but what you've explained to everyone very well, I might add, is not saying high ticket over the phone, whatever, it's low. Well, where the specificity that you brought in was, hey, tell them that they're going to get an X amount of money and time. They've got a risk reversal model, and it will continue with it. So make sure you get a result. So in other words, the current transaction is created from the get-go. Now you might get 20 to 30% cancel. It doesn't matter. The follow-up is zero. And this is what I'm very excited about. And we put in many years ago, but now you put it into a model, which you do it over the phone, and they get all done and dusted. That means there's zero follow-up, because follow-up is tedious and it's very ineffective with time. So having all the paperwork done from the very get-go and have an opt-out clause within a period is a very, very strategic and very sound move.
Well,
But if
it's
you don't
interesting,
have,
Steve, because the prospect has to follow up with you to cancel. Like they have to do more work than you.
So if you explain that to them and you've got that in place, that's strategically sound. It is not strategically sound to have a short term in without the quality guarantee, the DD to continue. That's where most clubs really struggle and they don't do it well.
So I want to talk about that, Steve. Like, so you go into a club, you speak to the owner and they say, hey, like we get X amount of trials, our conversion rate's this, you identify it's way less. And you feel as though that the majority of the problem is in that trial period, whether it's 7 days or 14 days, the staff aren't following up that person, making sure they're having a quality experience.
No, I can't say that would be the case. I would say 3 things is the problem. Number one, when you have that person going on to a trial of any description, 5, 7, 10, 15 days, doesn't matter. You've got to pre-qualify that person. This is the problem. If you want to come in for 7 days, I will say, let me see if you qualify for the 7 days. Whether it's paid or not, it's irrelevant. Firstly, do you live and work locally? Yeah. Okay. Will you be around a while? Yes, I will. Oh, good. LT. Well, what type of training are you doing at the moment? Nothing. Lots. Got it. What result are you looking for? Building, trimming, toning, firming, shaping. Okay, well, we're experts at that. We'll talk more when you pop in. I'm just curious, after the 7 days, and you really feel comfortable, you're feeling that it's a good fit, you get the size, the definition, the weight off, and you can see we've got proof, 14 day. Do you think you might want to continue afterwards? Yeah, more than likely. Terrific. Well, all of our memberships are quality guaranteed. And that's how we work with the business. Are you comfortable with that? See, now that's pre-qualified. He goes, no. I said, well, what's the problem? Oh, I'm going to go back and live in Tahiti. Okay, well, you won't qualify for that low entry.
There's 2 things there, mate, I want to highlight to the audience is I'm curious, what are you doing after 7? And all of our memberships are quality guaranteed. So your language there was very strategic on purpose to put it into their mind already that, hey, like you are going to have a great experience and there is something that happens day 8 and beyond because you had this result that you want to achieve, right? So it's once again going back to what you would call that, I guess, their why. because they're buying for, or they're now sorry because they're buying for emotional reasons.
Yeah. And if you like it and you're comfortable down, you think you might. See, that's called a double test. Do you think you might? See, the brain
I
cannot
like that.
differentiate from a decision. A real decision and a pretend decision is a decision by way of definition by the brain. So if you like it and you feel comfortable getting the size of definition, and you'll start getting the momentum, do you think you might want to continue, remember, and get the size you're really wanting? Great. Okay. Good.
I love
so
that.
It's called the cue.
Yeah.
But if we do that on a trial for what you asked earlier, and then we say, great, all of them is quality guaranteed anyway, and that's what we're going to be doing when you join. So all of a sudden they go into the trial, you fill in the paperwork, quality guarantee. I mean, if it's, by the way, a quality guarantee, if you've got a 14-day mini membership or whatever you want to call it, your quality guarantee does not expire on the 14th day. If it's a 14-day, it's 7 to 10. If it's a 7-day, it's 3 to 5. Always expires before the end of the period. Why? Because you want to make sure that you're not trying to coat hanger closing them. So that means it'll go ching. Makes it much easier.
100%. Steve, I've got 2 questions for you. Number 1, what is the biggest difference in sales in the early 80s compared to the 2020s?
In the early 80s, people were passionate about and understood training. The people that were selling were actually training. They could talk to, they were perceived and they looked like experts. Okay. It wasn't always about the offer. And they used to talk to you about, and took a little bit of time. Systemization with our business, it became more systemized, but there was a lot less competition, right? When the competition did come into play, it became absolutely catastrophic. You got buy 6 months, get 6 months free. You got 12 months, get 12 months free. You got to buy a lifetime membership. It was disgusting. Then direct debit came into play and it changed. Back in those days, it was a per visit. Then it became a pack. We jumped the gun and did the membership, but it became pack orientated, 12 months, 6 months. Okay. If you couldn't pay for it in 12 months up front, you give them a little bit of an installment and you have become a little bit of cash. But then credit cards came into play, everything changed. Now, and by the way, the sales process was telephone, see people, go out there and meet people. It was doing aerobics on stage, having little competitions running, talking to the community and being part of the community. And by the way, in a pre-sale, that's what you do now, but everyone stops. So that's what happened back then. It then evolved. Now, it's all about how much money am I going to spend on Facebook? How much am I going to spend per day? Okay, you've got to do it. But the amount of work in front of people is reduced significantly. Number 2, the sales expectation is high, very high. We have a lot of over expenses, high wages, and so forth. So there's a lot of pressure on the owners. The problem is they're not training, they're not reinforcing, they try to do it themselves, and they fail. So we have an attrition in our team, very expensive. If you took the time to train them and nurtured your team members who are profit centers and on the face of your business, they will stay longer. You can pay them admirably, and you'll have a business which is people orientated. It comes back down to not relying on social media automation. Automation is important, but we've got to get on our phone. You've got to go to people, and you've got to teach 100%. Your people how to do it. And that's how it's changed significantly. It's significant. It's not just a little bit. It's a lot. People I've sent out 200 emails. I've sent out 17 texts. I mean, people don't even confirm with a phone call anymore. It's a text message confirmation. Are you serious? That's the last time I can talk to Jayme to say, Looking forward to seeing you on Friday. I've got an action plan ready for you. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to get you ready for football so you're not playing in reserve grade. And by the way, I'm going to introduce to Andre, who's one of the superstar trainers that he does a lot of work with footballers. Okay, so you got good. You got to, where to park. Great. You say you're going to have a latte when you came in. I'll be joining you with that, mate. So let's get you ready for football.
Yeah.
Last chance to bring up their pain and solution. But no, we get a confirmation text.
Yeah, we'll see you in 24-hour contact appointment time zone. Yeah, couldn't agree more, mate. Like, just like we are.
Well, even if you leave a voicemail, you at least leave the voicemail which says, "I prepared something for you. I'm looking forward to seeing you, and I've got something to give you."
When you automate, Steve, you can leave a voicemail. You can leave a voicemail drop. You can leave an automated voice memo. And then, even getting better, you can get AI Jayme to leave an automated voicemail. So you're right. It's getting further.
When it sounds like Jayme, it's all good to go.
Yeah, it's getting further.
I'm all for it.
I guess with automation, it's getting further and further away from like just pick up the damn phone and speak to the person you're dealing with in front of you. Steve,
Absolutely.
I got one final.
Talk to more.
I've got one final question. What should have I asked you that I didn't ask you?
What should have you asked me that you should have? Let me think now. How do we keep our staff energized and enthusiastic to make more sales?
And the answer is?
Train them on why KPIs are important. Link their KPIs to them personally. In other words, what's it going to do for them? Care about the human being. Your team members has a family, has goals, and has dreams. Care about the person. Tell them, let them know who you are. And always acknowledge effort, but only reward consistency.
100%. I really like that. Care about your prospects that you're trying to sell to, and care about your staff just as much, and you have a profitable business. Steve, once again, 35 years experience, mate. I've learned so much on this phone call. It's a really great discussion about old school versus new school. And I want to thank you so much for coming on, mate.
Terrific. So my pleasure. Great to have a good, robust conversation. I love them. That's well done.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Steve.